right, let's do this again. If you didn't know this, Craig and I have been doing this podcast for the last 5 minutes, and I noticed that the little live button wasn't going. So here we are. We've been having this great conversation, and I just noticed that I didn't see the live button. So I apologize for the delay. We had a series of misunderstandings, some technical difficulties. It is all my fault. I will take full responsibility for all of it, but I'm glad you guys are here. I've been excited about doing this. I've been wanting to interview people. And Craig is the godfather of the group. He's the reason that we're all here. And in short, Craig's just a really good dude. I cannot withstand. If a challenge has been issued to me, I cannot resist myself. 99% of the time, I have to do the challenge, and he's the reason that I'm here. So I'll intro Craig, and then we'll kind of set the tone for the group and how this all came about. So Craig has been in the United States Army for the last 22 years. He's from a small town in Kentucky. He is a family man. He likes long walks on the beach. He likes to procreate, which is why he has 5 kids. He's a hobby farmer. But in all seriousness, he's a family man. He's been committed to the United States Army. He's achieved the rank of Master Sergeant. He's going to be retiring in the next year, so he's in that transitionary period. And he does a lot of volunteer work with Team Red, White, and Blue. He does a lot of volunteer work with his local church. And he's just an all-around good dude, always giving back. And, when I think about, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And that circle, like Craig's been in my circle over this last year since we really started this challenge. And he's one of those guys that forces you to be better, to raise your ambition. He's going to hold you accountable. So in all honesty, he's really become a really close accountability partner to me personally. And we started this journey last year. I remember when you issued this challenge, you were talking about 75 hard. I didn't know much about it. I'd heard some people talk about it, and I was in a negative space mentally, just on the other side of a divorce. And I started trash talking, like, there's no way you can do this 2 workouts a day. And I like fitness. You got to stick with a diet for 75 days, no alcohol. Like, this sucks. Like, why would we do this? No one's going to stick to this. I'm trash talking him on Facebook. And then I immediately walk outside, and he's standing there. I was at the transition building. There's no reason that we should have been there together at that moment in time. And I took that as like an omen from God, like, Jay, you're supposed to do this challenge. And I'm like, man, this sucks. But okay. And so that trash talking, I couldn't resist myself. And here we are. So the godfather of the group, the reason that we're all here is because of you. And I appreciate you. So we'll start off with, what did I miss in your intro? What else do we need to know about Craig Horstman?
That's kind of it. I've, like you said, I've been in the Army. I'm a rather fitness-minded person. I've been a CrossFit coach at a couple different gyms. I really enjoy teaching people proper movements and helping them learn to move properly to avoid injury. And not just in the fitness world, I like helping people in general. Any experience that I have that I can use to help somebody or make them more successful, I really enjoy. I enjoy my successes, obviously, but I find a lot of joy, if you will, in being able to help other people succeed in what they're doing.
Yeah, Craig is always posting motivational things he uses the social media platform to post positivity. He has the Sapper Dungeon, in which he invites people to his home to work out, basically out of his garage and his driveway. The workouts are intense, and he has a great strength and conditioning background. And you're always like, posting those videos and technique. What compels you to do that?
Honestly, a lot of it, this is going to sound funny, but a lot of it I kind of got from you. You post a lot of it. You've posted a lot of it. I've known you for more years than, the last year that we've been in the challenge, but I've watched you post a lot of motivational stuff and stuff you were reading and stuff you were learning. And I actually got a lot of it from you. And I catch myself a lot of times. It'll be a book I'm reading or something I'm thinking about. And a lot of it is literally stuff that you'll post in mastermind group or in the 75 hard group or whatever it is. It gets me thinking, and a lot of times it'll correspond to something that I'm reading or something that I'm thinking about at the time, but it just kind of comes from wherever. Yesterday's, oddly enough, was from this ridiculous video of some dude with long hair that looked like he was like half drunk talking about nobody cares about your failures. Yeah. And I was kind of struggling for a post yesterday, and it pushed me in the direction. I didn't go the way he was going with it, but that's just kind of what I kind of, it just clicked in my head that's what I wanted to go with for the day. Yeah, and I started doing that last year, kind of as I was going through the 75 hard stuff, some of it, and then reading and whatever. Went quiet for a while, and I had several people send me messages. They were like, "Hey, can you do that again? Because I really enjoyed what you were doing." So I've made it a point to be very deliberate about doing it again. Just because, like I said, if I've got something that can help somebody else, then yeah, I want to get out there and do whatever I can to help others be successful as well.
Absolutely. I learned that methodology from mastermind group that I was in. I was in Sean Whalen's Lion's Den. That was one thing that really, he talks about his journey of changing his mindset. And I was in a dark spot about 5 years ago where I really wanted to change my mindset. And so I started just doing the same thing, using my social media platform as a way to journal. And what I found personally in doing that is, one, I can kind of capture my thoughts, throw it out there, and I'll get far better engagement and conversation with people, positive conversation, because we're talking about real topics that matter. And I do think social media is a tool, just like money. It amplifies your mindset and who you are and how you show up. You can use it to, it's a megaphone. So you can talk about politics, you can talk about religion, you can put a bunch of garbage out there, or you can use it in a positive way. And what I found personally, and using it to help people, it keeps me grounded. It's selfish. Yes. It really is. But I connect better with people. I'm surrounded by more positive-minded people, and I don't get caught up in, hey, what's going on in the White House, or what's going on in with the news media. What is Tucker Carlson talking about today? I've really detached myself from that, and I've had far better conversations and engagement. So I appreciate you doing the same thing, because it does. Having a feed, logging in and seeing Craig working out, like, man, I need to get after it today, but having more people in your circle that do that, it does help you change your mindset. So thank you for doing that.
It does. And it's like the whole 75 hard thing. You talk about me being the godfather, but the whole reason I started the group was it was a challenge I wanted to do. I knew I would be more successful if I had other people around me doing it. And that's how the group started, whatever, kind of how all this started. But the same thing with like the social media posts. If I post things on social media, like in my feed, and things to think about and positivity and mindset and whatever, then it's definitely more of a motivation or an accountability tool. If I kind of start to slip a little bit, I'm like, crap, yesterday I got on my social media and said, this is what you need to do. And now I'm not doing that. So I need to get back into it. So I'm practicing what I preach and not just, blowing smoke from some book I read and whatever. So it's definitely an accountability tool to keep me in check as well.
Absolutely. Having accountability, that herd mentality, like we're all in this together, and, having someone that's you don't want to let the group down. Right. So having those people around you is incredibly important to your success. And that kind of goes back to, we mentioned earlier, those 5 people that you spend the most time with. If you're around people that are negative, have a negative mindset, if they're smoking, if they're not working out, you're probably doing that. If you're around people that are working out or running all the time, well, you're probably doing those activities. So, having that accountability and that herd mentality is a really, it's crucial. It really is crucial to your success and failures.
Yes, it is.
So what made you decide to do the 75 hard program specifically?
So I have been involved with First Form for like 7 years now. And I think it's 7. I don't know, kind of lost count in some way, shape, or form. And Andy Frisella, that came up with 75 Hard, is the CEO of First Form. He's the guy that started it. So I was kind of following along what he was doing, or have been for a long time. But when I moved back to Missouri from Fort Knox, physically and mentally, I was kind of in a bad place, just from jobs that I had at previously that were just taking a lot of time and whatever. Like my physical fitness wasn't where it needed to be. My mindset wasn't really where I needed to be. I knew I was going to get ready to retire, or possibly I was going to get promoted. And even if that was the case, I knew, especially physically, I needed to get myself in better shape if that were to happen. If I were to get selected for promotion and then stand in front of a larger formation, then I was going to have to fix me before I could stand in front of everybody else and tell them they need to fix themselves. So I found out about 75 Hard, of course, like I said, kind of through the First Form channels. And it sounded like what I needed to kind of kickstart myself. And like I said, I wanted to do it, but I knew if I had people around me doing it, I would be more successful. So last December, I jumped on Facebook and said, "Hey, I want to do this challenge. If anybody else wants to do it, let me know. If I get 5 or 10 people, I'll even start a Facebook group." Little did I know, in January when I started, I was going to have a Facebook group of like 30 people that were crazy enough to do it with me. I did some videos along the way in December, just kind of explaining the rules as I understood them, kind of making my plan for how I was going to be successful, but also to help everybody else in the group to kind of build their plan so they could be successful as well. So I just kind of pulled that in and went with it. Not to get into all of the other phases, but it turned into a big thing that I knew nothing about when I started. But it's definitely been a massive game changer for me over the course of the last year. So it's definitely been worth the effort that's been put into it.
Most people watching this are probably going to know what 75 Hard is, but I'll just do a quick rundown of what it is. It's basically, it's 75 days. It's 5 simple tasks. It's designed to build a discipline and mental toughness. It's not specifically, a lot of people get it confused as it's some like kind of diet program or workout routine. It's not. You will have results in your health and wellness if you do it right. But the whole point of it is to build mental toughness and resilience. Daily progress photo, read 10 pages of a personal development book, follow a diet, no alcohol, 2 45-minute workouts. 1 must be outdoors because you cannot control the conditions. That's been a tough one. We started this in January, so winters here in the Midwest are tough. And drink 1 gallon of water. Those 5 simple tasks. And so when you started your first 75 days, what did you learn going through that process about yourself?
It's not so much what I learned about myself. It's what I learned. It's things I knew about myself, but I was able to kind of work on and get better. I'm a procrastinator. I'm a very lazy person. And going through 75 Hard and working those tasks, one, it kind of forced me to plan, which I'm not a good planner. I'm an ADD kid, so I kind of bounce off the walls and fly by the seat of my pants most of the time. But it forced me to kind of sit down and start to plan. And really that was kind of what the basics of goal setting for me, because my goal was to finish this task. And then I had to sit down and plan how I was going to do this. How am I going to get all these tasks in when I'm working every day? I've got 5 kids and family that I need to pay attention to as well. So how am I going to fit all this stuff in? So for me, I think besides the physical aspects of things, I dropped like 20 pounds, like 13% body fat. I got stronger, got faster. It was awesome. But it allowed me, or it forced me to sit down and figure out how to plan stuff out, plan my days out so I can get everything done and still have time for everything that I needed to do. So that was kind of the big one that I got out of 75 Hard itself.
It's definitely an exercise in time management for sure, because in order to make all of these tasks work, like we've talked about, like most days in 75 Hard aren't really that hard, but you're going to have a handful of days where you're going to be traveling, or you're going to have like some extracurricular activity you're going to have to go to with the kids, or it's going to be a holiday, or maybe like I experienced my birthday. There's going to be a handful of days that are going to be incredibly, incredibly tough. Now, you made it through the first 75 days without a restart, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. But then like we got into phase 1. Phase 1 is basically the 75 Hard tasks plus a couple additional tasks. We spent more time in phase 1 than we did the initial 75.
We did.
When you faced failure for the first time, the second and the third, what was the thought process? How did you decide to, you know what, I'm gonna brush this off and get back into this and complete it and see it through? We had some candid conversations. We were both like, is this really worth it? What would it be like if I actually just quit? We had those talks. How did you process that, and how did you ultimately push through that?
Honestly, one of my biggest motivators, besides obviously the will and the want, if you will, the desire not to fail, was that we had somebody in the group who was going through it at the same time as us, Stephanie. She started 75 Hard a day before me. I'd originally planned on starting on the 1st of January, but I was traveling that day, so I didn't start till the 2nd. She started a day before me. So she finished a day before me, which drove me up the wall. But then as she went through phase 1 with no issues, like I'm looking at her and I'm like, Steph did this. I know I can do this. She's already beat me through one. I can't give up and let her beat me again. It's just that internal competition that, kind of going on in my head. But also, I mean, we were in the group again. So there's a group of people. By this time, I think we had kind of transitioned. My group had kind of fizzled out, whatever, but you had started your group. So we had kind of transitioned there. So I knew there were a lot of people watching there as well. So, I mean, I'm not going to, the will not to fail within myself was big, but also the desire not to fail in front of others. Or, I mean, obviously I failed. We restarted 4 times, but not to quit, if you will. And the other thing for me is I, in the past, have had a tendency that when hard things come up, like I'll attempt them. And then if I fail, then I'm just like, well, that's it. That's, it's over. It was really easy for me to just kind of walk away and never think about it again. And that was one of the things that I was wanting to use this challenge to get over, to not just throw up my hands and quit and say it's done and never look at it again, because you do that and then you have a regret essentially for the rest of your life. So yeah, I didn't want to fail. I didn't want to fail in front of other people. And I didn't want Stephanie to be able to look at me and say, hey, I finished this and you didn't. So yeah, it might've taken me 4 restarts to do it, but I got it done.
That speaks to the power of accountability, right? It really does make a difference. And this is one of the tips that I tell people is like, when you're going to take on a new goal, whether it be 75 hard or something else in your life, let people know what you're going to do, because one, it's going to hold you, people are going to ask you about it, and they're going to want to know that you're making progress. And it doesn't feel good to tell people that you quit or you're slacking. Make the proclamation, burn the ships, we'll call it, right? Burn the ships. We're here. We're putting the stake down. We're going to make this thing happen. And there's going to be times where you're going to want, every fiber in your being is going to want you to quit. But, burning the ships and saying that this is not an option, and having an accountability crew, like, dust yourself off, get back in the ring. It's really, really powerful.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
What was one of the challenges as far as time management and balancing like work responsibilities and family time? How did you get through that? What did the family think of you doing this, and what kind of challenges did you have, and how did you overcome those?
So, like you said earlier, the time management piece became huge. I mean, it was in 75 hard, it was huge. The way I kind of overcame that one was I got up earlier. Before that, like the job I do here in the Army, like we don't do organized PT. We don't do any of that. It's be at the office at 8:30. Everything else is on you. And before the challenge, like I would get up kind of in time to get myself ready and be at work by 8:30. Nothing crazy. But like for my first workout, like you said, I got a garage gym. So I was doing my workouts there. I would get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. As soon as I rolled out of bed, I was taking my progress pictures straight to the couch, drinking water, straight to the couch to read a book, not to get on my phone, which is one of the things I learned along the way. Straight to reading a book. And then usually by 6 or 6:15, I was in the garage getting my first workout in. Well, everybody except my teenagers were in bed. So I wasn't cutting time away from them there. The second workout on days was challenging. There were a lot of days, or rather nights, that I was out walking or rucking or whatever at 10 o'clock at night, because I didn't want to necessarily cut into that family time again. It definitely cut into some time with me and my wife, but we would put the smaller kids down about 7:30 or 8. And once they went down, I would get out and do my other workout. So that kind of took some time away. And there were some days that it was a struggle. There were actually quite a few days in there that my wife was not super happy with me because of the time I was putting into it. But the thing that I remembered, and that people have to remember, is that if you don't take care of yourself and you are not functioning at 100%, then you're not going to be 100% for everybody else. And I knew taking this time for me to get through this was going to make me better. And in turn, not just make me better for me, but make me better for all of those around me as well. So I knew the sacrifice of the time was going to be worth the reward at the end. So yeah, there were a lot of days my wife was mad at me, but in the long run, it's definitely paid dividends to develop that discipline and everything for me. That way I can be better, stronger, whatever it may be, for my family as well. So.
Absolutely. You kind of hit on two things. One, the morning routine is incredibly important. When I talk about, when I work with clients about mindset coaching, that's one of the focal points is you've got to set the tone with that morning routine. Waking up, and this is an exercise in time management, getting a bulk of those tasks done first thing is going to set the tone for the rest of the day. And if you don't, you're going to have a much tougher day during 75 hard. And you also hit on the fact that your family didn't quite always understand it. When you tell people that you're going to do 75 hard, there are people that are going to laugh at you. There are people that are just not quite going to understand, especially when it affects their life or their perception of you a little bit. And but you were committed to it. You pushed through it anyway, and you filled your cup first. And this is something that I talk to a lot of people about, is like, if you are not living in congruency with who you are and doing the things that fill your cup, and you're not making yourself better, it's going to be difficult for you to be the best version of yourself for everyone else. So doing the work on yourself every single day and taking care of yourself first is going to be able to give you a better quality output to everyone else that needs you for the rest of the day, your coworkers, your friends, your family, your significant other. And sometimes you've got to be selfish with that time for yourself. And it's counterintuitive to think that way, but you will, in the long run, be a better version and add more value to everyone that you care about the most.
And I also think that's huge for being a parent, because I have teenagers. If I'm laying around being lazy, doing nothing to improve myself, not learning new things, not pushing myself, whatever, then how can I as a parent look at my teenagers and say, hey, you need to study, you need to get better, you need to become a better version of you if I'm not doing that. So with me doing that and them seeing it, even if they didn't understand it, I know that I'm setting the example for them, that they may not get it right now, and they're probably not going to do it right now because they're teenagers and they know everything, but there's going to be one day that it's going to click. They're going to be like, oh, now I understand, when they're out of the house and everything isn't provided for them and they've got to do the work, then the hope is that one day that will click and they'll be like, now I understand why he did it. I see what he did. I know it's possible. And maybe that's what I need to do as well. And then that's the time. They may not see it right now. They may not learn it right now, but one day, I know I can speak from experience at 41 years old that there were things that my parents did that I never understood when they did it. Why? But as I've gotten older and become a parent, 30 years later, I'm like, oh, now I get it. Now it makes sense. So yeah, that's kind of the intent, or that's kind of a big thing for me, is to set that example. And it hasn't just been with them. Like I've had, like you were talking about, I've had people who trash talk to me doing it. No, you can never do it. No, that's dumb and you're ridiculous. And by the time I finish, they're like, hey man, can you tell me more about this? Because I've seen what you've done. So that was pretty cool too. So it's not just as a parent, but as a figure in your community, in your circle of friends, whatever it is, that you can have a lot of influence over people when they see you succeed. They'll trash talk you for a while, but when they see that you're improving, either they're going to hate on you even more because you're doing things that they can't do, or they're going to be like, maybe I need to get in on this and figure out what's going on so I can be better as well.
Yeah, people often say, "Oh, I'm not in a leadership role. I don't lead anyone." If you have a family, you're a leader. Your kids are watching you, and they're listening to the words that you say, like Charlie Brown. They're watching those actions, and those actions speak volumes. And they may not pick up on it initially, but your consistency and how you show up every day is going to leave a huge impression on them. And that's so important. It's so critical to set that example for your kids. And as far as like people that trash talk, it's usually coming from a place of negativity. You really got to take into account the person's mindset before you assess and give. Everyone has a volume knob. I tell this to a lot of people. Everyone's got a volume knob. You got to turn the volume down on some people. And a lot of people are paralyzed by the thoughts that others have of them or their opinions. But some people are coming from a place of fear or negativity or ego. And deep down inside, the people that hate on you the most are oftentimes your biggest fan. And they're maybe trash talking, but it's because you're doing something that they desperately want to be able to do. But like crabs in a bucket, they're going to try to pull you down to their level. And, oftentimes it's very hurtful because it's people that are close to you. It could be a family member, right? And that's always hurtful. But press on anyway, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Describe the hardest day that you can think of on 75 Hard and how you pulled through that particular day. A day that you wanted to quit, a day that you maybe had a failure, and you're just like, you know what? This hashtag challenge is stupid. On the towel. How did you push through anyway?
So it wasn't necessarily with 75 Hard. It was phase 2. You and I had a conversation. I don't remember what it was. I was just I was beat down, honestly. And it shouldn't have been, because phase 2 should be a relatively easier phase. I had actually failed. Um, and I think part of it was kind of drawing from my experience in phase 1, where I failed. I restarted 4 times, and I was like, I don't want to do this again. Is this where I'm headed? Because I don't want to do it. And just a bunch of stuff coming together, and, months and months and months of like quarantine and not being able to go anywhere and whatever just kind of built up. But that was when I had a conversation with you. I called you and I was like, hey, man, I don't know if I'm going to do this anymore. And I intentionally called you and I called Stephanie because I knew I would get the answer out of both of you, going back to who your circle of friends are. I knew both of you your answer would be, well, I mean, if that's what you want to do, then that's what you're going to do. But I really think you should stop being a bitch and do the work. And that may not have been the exact words that are said. You still swear up and down that you did not say that. But that's the intent that I got out of it, which is honestly, it's what I was looking for. I needed that reinforcement from my people, that I needed to quit being a whiny little bitch and do the work and do what I was capable of doing. So that was that was my hardest point.
I think I did present it in a way where it's kind of like, well, you can quit if you want to, but but I did it in a very political way, a nice way of doing it. And then you bit, and you just I was like, yes, it worked.
Yeah. But again, that's talking about your circle of friends and the influence that your friends have on you. I specifically I started with a text and ended up talking to 2 different people who both of them I knew were going to push me not where I wanted to go, but where I needed to go. They weren't going to tell me. A lot of times we surround ourselves with people who tell us what we want to hear just because we do it for validation. Kind of the growth and fixed mindset that we've been talking about in the Forge and reading about. We go to those people that are going to validate our excuses. But you need to go to those people that are going to give you the hard truth. And that's what I did. I came to the 2 people that I knew were going to tell me to, man up and do the work and stop complaining. And that's exactly what happened. And, here I am. I'm in phase 3, so I got through it.
Yeah, I'm incredibly proud of you because I could sense it in your voice that night when you talked. Like you were just shoveled in. It sucks to fail. Failure hurts. And for those that are watching, failure is part of the 75 hard process. It's okay to fail. It's not okay to not get back up and do it again. It's not okay to get back up and make the same mistakes. It's okay to fail, but if you're not changing up, if you don't identify the causation of the failure and address that, that's not really okay, because there's no change or growth in that. And it's not okay to make a habit of failing. But failing is par for the course. So it's kind of like a fine balance. You learn a lot about yourself, because this is what's great about this program is no one would know whether you didn't drink all the water or you missed something. You have to hold yourself accountable. It's a war against yourself. And, having that humility to say, you know what, hey, I failed in the group, and facing that and just internalizing all of that is difficult, but there's a lot of growth that is had in that. And I know that me, I was pretty proud of myself. I made it for the first 75 days at phase 1. And you're right. Phase 2 is incredibly difficult. It's the first 75, the first 5 tasks and 75 hard later in the year, only for 30 days. And Andy even identifies that as being one of the hardest phases because you've gotten complacent over a period of time.
Yep.
And you're getting back at it. That's the power of this simple program. So incredible.
And there was a time, previous to all this, where if I would have done this, I think I restarted phase 1 because I didn't drink like this. I woke up the next morning and I had this much left in my water bottle. It was something dumb. And there was a time when I'd have been like, nah, whatever. I'm not going to tell anybody. I'm just going to go on like it never happened. But kind of with the accountability piece of this, every time I failed phase 1, it was for something stupid, something ridiculous, something very minuscule, that there was a time when I would have just let it go and I would have kept going like nothing happened. But I can definitely tell you that from the accountability piece of this, every time I had those little minuscule, stupid, failures, that thought would cross my mind. Hey, let's just blow it off like nothing happened and just keep going. But just from the accountability piece, even when that thought would come in my head, Like I would entertain it for a second and it would eat me alive. Like you can't do
Yeah.
this. One, you have people following you that, they may never know, but you always will. So you've just got to do what you got to do and set the example. And I think that's important. We see people on social media all the time that you see them post at their best. They're fitness models or power lifters or millionaires or whatever it is. We see them post at their best and they do it intentionally. You don't see them at their worst. And you don't see the failures that they've gone through to get there. So I think it's really, really important, at least it was important to me to show those failures, just to show that we're all human, man. And those people that you see on social media that are influencers or whatever that have all these things, guess what? They didn't have all these things. Or, well, most of them didn't. There's been a lot of work put in behind the scenes to get there. And I think we really have to be, if we really want to influence people, we have to be very, very, very transparent in what we do to see that it's not, it's not perfect all the time. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. There are going to be times that you're going to fail and it's going to suck. But the trick is to, get back up and get after it and finish what it is that you started.
Yeah, good leaders role model the way. And I think the best leaders, are humble enough to show their failings as well and the growth from that, because you demonstrate that. And then you demonstrate the ability, like, I stepped on it. I dusted myself off and I got back on anyway. Mm-hmm. I remember that the morning you showed me the I was like, hey, great job this morning. Get your water in like first thing. I was like, this is kind of strange. I'm like, then I put it together like, oh man, that's water from yesterday. I'm like, oh
yeah. I had marked everything off my list that night with the intent of finishing that water. And then I went to bed without finishing it and woke up the next morning, kind of wanted to jump off my back deck, but whatever. Yeah. Start all over and do it again.
Here you are. You're in phase 3, about to finish up the year strong.
Absolutely. Halfway through phase 3. Today is day 15. I got 15 more days.
What advice would you give to someone that might be on the fence? They're thinking about 75 hard, but they're like, oh, these tasks are daunting. What advice would you give someone or encouragement or some tips to help someone, take that step to giving it a go?
Burn the ships. It's something that we've talked about. I actually heard about it from you. You talked about it in the group. And then oddly enough, it started popping up all over my social media and stuff, right? Because Facebook and Instagram are listening. But yeah, just take the leap. I talked about it on my story the other day about you get that little voice in your head that tells you that you can't do something. Everybody gets that voice. It never goes away, but you have to learn to shut that voice up and tell it that I am going to do this and I can do this. It's like you said, it's not super difficult. The tasks really aren't that hard. There are going to be days that it sucks, but you 110% can do it. We've had some really big success stories in the group, and I've seen success stories all over Instagram because I have a lot of people like on my Instagram that have done it. And there's huge success stories and you 100% can do it. It's just a matter of putting in the work to do it. And it's not hard. And if you're not sure, hit up somebody who's done it, and we will be more than happy to help you figure out that plan. I know within the group, we've already been talking stuff. People are already making plans and starting to put things in motion and get ready for it. Yeah, you absolutely, there is zero reason why you cannot do this.
Absolutely. The story behind Burn the Ships, this is when Hernando Cortez basically sailed across the Atlantic Ocean to go basically attack the Aztecs. Politics or any racism, all that behind the story is quite compelling. He had his ships, he had his men. We're going to go take on this Aztec empire, a warrior nation. We're outnumbered, we're outgunned, but we're going to do it anyway. And we're going to to motivate, inspire his men. He burned the ships that they came in on, and that's where burn the ships comes from. Burning the ships symbolizes your way out, right? It symbolizes not having any excuses, getting rid of all of that and just focusing on the task at hand. So it's a very powerful statement, and it's good when you put that in practice into your life for sure. Mm-hmm. What book has made the greatest impact on you?
Oh man, I don't think any one book has, because everything I've read, which has been, I think I've legitimately read more books this year than I have in the last 10 years of my life. But I think I've drawn things from all of them. Miracle Morning was big, which when I read Miracle Morning, I'd kind of already set up my own morning routine. So it was cool. I kind of did that on my own, but then to read the book and find out, how it works, why it works, that was a good one. How to Win Friends and Influence People is a very good book. Extreme Ownership by Jocko is a really, really good one. There's a lot of lessons that can be pulled out of there. I mean, like I said, pretty much every book that I've read I have not read. So Extreme Ownership is the only one of his that I've read, but I know there are several others. The Dichotomy of Leadership. There's a couple in my Amazon cart right now. This is why I can't save money, because I keep spending money on Amazon for books. I guess it's not necessarily a bad thing, but no, everything I've read, I've drawn something out of that has become very, very useful. Reading Mindset right now, which has been a really, really good one. I already got a couple more on deck. I've read some financial books, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, the Latte Factor. I've read several different financial books just because I'm getting ready to retire, and financial planning has been something I've never really looked at. But anything I've read has been something good has come out of it.
If you were to pick like one book and like one key takeaway that has really changed your life, someone that may not be a reader, but you're like, hey, you know what? This would be a book aside from the Bible. The Bible's great. Greatest personal development book of all time. However, but another personal development type book, something that would really be impactful for someone, what book would you choose and what key takeaway would that be? Life principle.
Oh boy.
All the books were great. All of them have. I'm just thinking of all the nuggets I got out of those books. But if you had to boil it down to one, that'd be the most impactful.
So I'm not going to go for one. I'm going to go for two. And because we're kind of talking about 75 Hard and the different aspects that I have gained out of 75 Hard, I would go with Atomic Habits and Miracle Morning. Or Morning Routine, but I just forgot the name of it. It's Miracle Morning. I would go with those two just because those are the things, those books will cover the tasks that you need, the basic tasks that you need to get you moving in the right direction, whatever it is. That's going to kind of set the groundwork and be kind of the cornerstone for everything else.
Absolutely. The Miracle Morning is a great short read. The importance of having that morning, and then Atomic Habits. You have so many habits in your life, some good, some negative, and really makes you focus on taking a good inventory of the habits that you have in your life. What is bringing you progress? What might be stifling your progress? How to develop better habits? How to stop some of the negative habits? Just a great framework of how to deal with habits in your life. So those are two excellent books for sure.
Yep.
See what I don't know. I'm trying to think of another question I might have for you. What was the biggest challenge that you faced doing 75 Hard?
I don't really know, because like most of the things that are incorporated in 75 Hard, minus reading every day and minus the gallon of water, were kind of things that I already had done anyway, or already did anyway. I didn't work out twice a day. I generally worked out once a day. Gallon of water was a challenge. And then reading every day was kind of a challenge, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed to read. But again, being an ADD kid, trying to sit down and sit still and pay attention, it can be a challenge sometimes, but this kind of forced me back into that because it's something that I enjoy doing, that I'd kind of gotten out of the habit of it. So I would say the biggest challenge for me out of 75 Hard, besides the time management piece and just the motivation some days to get my butt off the couch and go, was figuring out how to get that gallon of water a day in. But once you start doing it and get into a rhythm, it's really easy.
Definitely. So we started this, you threw down the gauntlet like in January. We had no idea the pandemic was coming.
No.
Big pandemic that's really affected our lives. This is a historical event that we're living through right now. How did 75 Hard, how did that affect you dealing with all the stresses that came with the pandemic?
So it gave me those goals. So we started in January. I think it was March time frame, February, March time frame was when the pandemic kind of started going crazy and like we started teleworking, all this stuff. And right at that time, I was transitioning jobs. So I had to learn a new job while teleworking with a guy who was doing it in his house in one place and me in another one. Plus, like my kids were home from school or were virtual learning what it was at the time, which was crazy. But it forced me, I had to try several different ways to be able to get especially work done and family done and focus on all that. And kind of the time management and planning and everything that I picked up from 75 Hard is what ended up paying off, in the long run for me when it came to the pandemic stuff, because it forced me to figure out, hey, I need to set up an office in my basement. I need to time block time off for me to get this stuff done. Otherwise, I tried working in my dining room for a little while, but there's kids running everywhere. My wife's crazy because there's kids running everywhere and I'm home and she's expecting me to do things because I'm home. So it forced me to relook all that and be like, hey, this is what I need to do to be successful at work. I need to, set up an office downstairs away from everybody. Hey, babe, check it out. I'm going downstairs because I have to get this work done. I will be back up. I started to time block my time and I was actually able to get my work done by lunch. And then I had the afternoon to do stuff with the family or projects around the house. And honestly, had it not been from the time management skills that I picked up from 75 Hard, it would have taken me a lot longer to figure it out, how to balance everything. I would not have been able to do that as well or as quickly as I was able to adapt if it wasn't for that time management piece.
Yeah, that I know for me personally, it really kept me focused on the task at hand, my own personal growth and development. And so I didn't have time for all the white noise dealing with everything else. And it was my ability to, fill my own cup first so I could show up better for my kids.
Yeah.
I did get caught up in some online arguments and things like that a couple times. And I'm like, you know what? It's not positive. It's not adding any value. There's not a Facebook argument where anyone has changed their mind. It's a waste of time. It's a distraction. So focus on the task at hand. Be that leader for those that really count on you. Because we're really generally in our society kind of void of like good leadership. And leading my family is probably the best thing I could do, especially during this perilous time where they're my kids are trying to figure out what's going on. They've had a tough year. Yeah. And I got to show up better for them. So by me showing up better enables me to lead my family better and my friends and, people at work and whatnot that count on me.
Yeah. And I was able to use that with them too, because now when they virtual learn, like they're on a bell schedule, it's just like they're at school, but they're at home. But when they started, they didn't have that. Like teachers were just the teachers were figuring out too, and I'm definitely not trash talking the teachers. I got nothing but love for them because they've been trying to figure this madness. They've been trying to build this plane while they were flying it. But I was able to take that to my kids and be like, hey, I've had to figure this out too. And this is what's worked for me. I have set this time to do this. And if you will set your time that you do your schoolwork, then you have more time to yourself. Did they listen? No, they're teenagers. They know everything, but they were seeing me do it at least. So they knew it was something they could fall back on, or they could come to me, because where normally as parents, we don't experience the same things as our teenagers or our kids because they're going through different things. This is something we had in common. We were all going through together, and I could tell them, hey, this is one of those things that I understand because I'm trying to figure this crap out too. And maybe this is something that will work for you as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's a tool. It's a program that you can put in your back pocket to help you just stay focused on personal development and stay positive. And that's what I love about this program is this continual stretch goal that you put yourself through. We're approaching 45 minutes. So I'll ask you one more question and we'll probably wrap it up. When you hear the term "do hard things," it's been like my mantra and the kind of the theme of the group. When you hear the term "do hard things," what does that mean to you?
So to me, that goes back to that voice in your head, that when you want to do something and you're thinking about doing something and that voice in your head says you can't do this, or you shouldn't do this, then that's where that do hard things comes into play. That's where I'm like, I'm going to do this. I did a marathon this year. Never done a marathon before in my life. The farthest I've ever run was 13.1 miles. A bunch of my friends signed up for the Marine Corps Marathon because it was virtual. They planned it for a weekend. They had several different people from different RWB chapters within several states around here come in and do it. It was super cool for them. I ended up not being able to be here that weekend, so I ended up having to do it by myself. And there was, of course, that voice in my head that was like, bro, you don't have to do this. You're going to get the medal anyway. That's why you signed up. And you don't have to do it. But that was one of those perfect opportunities for me to work that mindset piece. I ended up doing it the day after. So they did it. A group did it on Saturday. A group did it on Sunday. I was out of town. I came back in Monday and ended up doing it on my own. My first 13 miles was awesome. It wasn't a problem at all. My second 13 miles, as soon as I stepped up the door, it started pouring rain. It was cold. It was miserable. And there were a lot of times that voice in my head was like, hey, just call your wife. She'll come get you. It's no big deal. But that do hard things and that finish what you start kind of mantra is what got me through it. And I did it. And I can say I did it now. And that was super cool. I did that. I did a 25K trail run, which I've never done before. I did the Taji 100 with RWB in February, where I ended up covering 100 miles, ruck, run, walk, whatever, through the month of February, which is something I wouldn't have done before. So there's been a lot of stuff that do hard things mantra has kind of gotten me through. I look for those challenges now to do it, just to say I did it, just to prove to myself I can.
All of those things you just mentioned, I just realized I participated in all of those, to include 75 Hard. So we've been on the same path this year in personal development and growth, and it's been awesome. Mm-hmm. For me personally, like breaking the habit of just not quitting. Like, I'm going to see this thing through and just have mm-hmm. When you can put yourself in a controlled environment and be uncomfortable when life's actual struggles, which if you're not going through a struggle, it's going to come into your life. It enables you to show up better. And so, the being able to sharpen your skill set, sharpen your saw, continually working on that just gives you a greater edge to deal with things in life. And mm-hmm. It's been an awesome to be on the same journey with you this year through all of those things. That day that you ran that, because I ran it on the Friday night, and because of 75 Hard, I had written off running long distance for a long time because of running related injuries. I'm a bigger guy. I'm a Clydesdale 215-pound guy. And that got me into cycling and other ultra events. But I didn't think running was in the cards. But doing yoga, listening to David Goggins' Can't Hurt Me, where he talks about doing yoga every day, I'm like, I'm going to give this a shot. And I remember that night, on that Friday night, when I hit the 31 mile, I was actually just right down the street from your house, 2:00 in the morning. I was like crying, like I accomplished this. I did this. Mm-hmm. And you did it on that Monday, and it was like the worst weather conditions possible. And you pushed through. It's just cool to be associated with people like that are pressing the envelope of what they believe that they can do. And it's awesome. So if let's talk about 75 Hard for those that we have an accountability group. What physical conditioning, what do you need, Craig, in order to be able to do 75 Hard?
Absolutely nothing. It's amazing. There's no, you can't throw the I'm not in good enough shape for it. You can't throw the really anything because 2 45-minute workouts, there's nothing that says what those workouts has to be. There's nothing that says one of them has to be in a gym. There's nothing that says you have to run. There's nothing that says you have to do anything. There have been multiple days throughout my my different phases that one of my workouts would be outside for a 45-minute walk. Not even like super pushing the pace, especially after I did Marine Corps marathon. I had an injury, of course, because I didn't train for it because I'm dumb. But I was out walking for 45 minutes, and then I was doing yoga for 45 minutes at the house. I actually was lucky enough to get blessed with getting the Rona at one point in time when I was in one of my phases. And for 2 days, I felt like I got run over by a truck, which I was lucky with what I got. Anybody that sees this that, knows people that got really bad symptoms or worst case lost their life. I am not in any way, shape, or form, trying to talk bad or anything like that. For me, I felt like crap for 2 days, but I was still on my challenge. So it forced me. I got outside and walked. One of the things that they said has been hugely beneficial to this is vitamin D from sunlight. So I was out slowly walking my neighborhood for 45 minutes a day. Plus it was forcing me to move and stretch and all that stuff. So it worked. A couple weeks ago, I got something. I don't even know what it was, but it was right at the tail end of my phase 2. I lost like 6 pounds in 48 hours, but it was within the last like 2 days of my phase 2. And I still forced myself outside, and I didn't eat for like 2 days, and it was miserable, but it forced me to move, which is always going to be a benefit. At one point in time, I did 45 minutes of the most miserable, pathetic, restorative yoga that you have ever seen in your life, in my bed, in sweatpants and a hoodie, because I wasn't going to fail, but it kept me moving. So there's really no reason why anybody can't do it. If you can go outside and walk for 45 minutes and you have enough room in your living room floor to stretch, roll, yoga, whatever it is, physically, you got no excuses. Sorry. And we have some people in the group who have been through a lot worse stuff than what I have, and they made it.
Yeah, just to recap: 5 tasks, 75 days, daily progress photo. You don't have to post this publicly. You can use a Polaroid. Doesn't matter.
Nope.
Just take a photo. It's for you to look at your journey and the progress that you're making. 10 pages of a personal development book. This literally takes like no longer than like 15 minutes. Can't listen to an audiobook. You got to read a book of some kind. Follow a diet. What's cool about this is you get to choose the diet. You choose your own adventure on this one. Just no alcohol, no cheat meals. 2 45-minute workouts. And oftentimes, like you said, people that are doing 2 HIIT workouts every day, you're not going to make it. You're not going to make it. That second one should be an active recovery. Do an active recovery, a walk, restorative yoga. Like you said, some days on active recovery day, your rest and recovery is training. And, 2 walks a day, that checks the block on that. Okay. Don't overthink
it. That too.
Drink a gallon of water a day. That's it. Those 5 tasks over 75 days fundamentally change your life. So we've got a group. We'd love to have you join the group. The group is jteagues.com/75hard if you want to join. And I appreciate you taking the time, Craig. I was actually this morning, Craig's in a group that we have called The Forge. It's a mastermind group, and listing out the 10 achievements of 2020. And I wrote those out. That's kind of the homework assignment for everyone in the group. And I actually posted it in the 75 Hard group as well. If you really want people to reflect on what they've accomplished this year. As I wrote that list, I was like, you know what? If it weren't for the challenge that you issued, that list, for the most part, probably 8 of those things probably would not have happened. So it made me a little reflect back on the year and the that fork in the road that took me down one path versus another was you issuing the challenge on that day when I'm in building 470 talking trash to you on Facebook. That day coming out and actually making the commitment, seeing you and making the commitment to do it fundamentally changed. I mean, my life. I'm on a different trajectory. I was lost in what I was going to do after the Army. Now I'm on that glide path of knowing who I am and what I need to be doing. And just had a tremendous year of growth for myself. And I thank you personally for trash talking me and issuing that challenge to me.
Well, although I had no intentions of really helping anybody else at the time, I was looking for people to suffer with me and keep me in line. I'm glad that me issuing that challenge and getting people involved was able to help not only you but the other people in the group. And it's awesome to see where people have come from it. So I had no idea when I started it that this is where we were going to be a year later. So yeah, it's definitely been an interesting ride. It's been a good time.
Yeah, man. Well, I appreciate you. I appreciate you taking the time to hop on here. Hopefully, you never know who you're going to inspire, and it's just honor to have you in my close circle. And thanks for coming on today. And for those that are out there, feel free to jump in the group. We'd love to have you. Craig's always available for questions and motivation. I am as well, and we are more than happy to share our journey with you. And that's it. In the meantime, appreciate you, Craig. And for those that are watching, keep doing hard things. And that's going to end it for today. So appreciate you. All right, we're going to end it time. Yeah. For those 5 that are on, thanks for watching.